Welcome everyone. It's Linda Talaferro from the TV Extra Effort. It is my favorite time of the month. In this case, the month of September. We're doing this one Tuesday because this is a special conversation. I wanted to make sure you all got the nuggets around this topic because it's always prevalent for some of us. But given what's happening in the US today and around the world with the economy, it's in front of us on a daily basis, some by choice and some by not. It's so critical that we spend time around this. And you can see that I have yet another fantastic guest. Let me just jump right in and introduce you to Jeanette Jordan. And see, just as I do this, Jeanette, every time I think I have the bio right in front of me, and what happens? No, I could, and it's not there. Yes, here it is. Jeanette Jordan. She is an executive coach, strategic business consultant with a passion for advising, C-suite leaders and founders as they grow, scale, and pivot their business. She worked for over a decade in the technology industry in various marketing positions at Nextroll, which was formerly AdRoll Group, Factual, Foursquare, we might know them as, Noistar, Verizon, Millennial Media, which was acquired by AOL. And that was new to me because I didn't know that that was the case. So Millennial
Yeah.
Media acquired by AOL and PayPal. Prior to joining the tech industry, Jeanette worked as an engineer and construction manager until the financial crisis in 2001. That career transition planted a seed, and for the past 10 years, Jeanette has been helping other people learn how to leverage and reposition their knowledge, skills, and experience to find new career opportunities. In addition to advising professionals on role transitions and assisting startups with their growth and agility initiatives, Jeanette provides executive outsourcing services to help startups meet short to midterm needs. She is also an accomplished speaker and a podcaster on topics ranging from strategic growth, leadership management, data storytelling, and DEIB to stakeholder capitalism. Jeanette received a dual bachelor's degree from Spelman College and Columbia University in mathematics civil engineering and holds an MBA from the University of Maryland College Park. Jeanette, welcome to Being Brown at Work Live.
Thank you so much. You read my full bio
Got
today.
all the credit, yes, because when you earn them, they deserve to be shared and let the world know because you didn't put in that
And you
work for
know,
nothing.
we are multifaceted, right? And
Yes,
so I think that's a great way to enter this conversation because as we start to think about that, we have to remember that we are multifaceted. Our work experience, our personality, our power, and how we can
yes.
leverage that to think about what we're going to do next and a pivot if we need to.
Exactly. And Jeanette, you said that so well, so eloquently. It was so well put because we don't do that enough. I don't think we really take a look at everything that we have brought to the table, all the aspects of ourselves, both professionally and personally. Because my audience knows I always say who you are personally is who you are professionally. And so I'm so
Right.
glad you said that. It is a perfect way to open this up. So, Jeanette, we're talking about leaving or staying. And you are going to be the perfect expert for this conversation because of your background, because of your decisions that you had to make in your own career. So, if we were to take a step back and share with the audience, what would you say to them that they should be paying attention to that might be happening around them? Or even some thoughts that might be occurring that could say, oh, you might want to consider leaving or staying.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think I want to move from paying attention to what's happening in the external world to internal. Right
Ah,
now, we are in a moment where there are market forces and conditions at work, right? The
yes.
markets are slowing. And one of the reasons why I pivoted the first time was because of market conditions. I was in civil engineering and construction management, and the housing crisis happened. It wasn't that I
Yes.
wasn't passionate about my job. It wasn't that I didn't love what I did. It's not that I didn't have the skill set. So that is really something to pay attention to. And one of of the things that I paid attention to in my first pivot is we were building out our commitments. I was in construction. So you're fulfilling on the sales you already sold. We were not getting a lot of new sales. The
Yes.
demand for what my company was doing was slowing down. So I did not sit there and wait to find a new job. I started paying attention and say, the math isn't mathing. If we are
Yes.
fulfilling our commitments and we're not getting a lot of new sales, somebody's going to be out of work. And so now it's time for me to start looking, to start planting seeds, to start thinking about what is next. I thankfully was already enrolled part-time in an MBA program to
Okay.
help bolster my management skills. I use that as a moment to say, let me go full-time and pivot. I would say one of the
Oh,
first things we need to be paying attention to is market conditions. What's happening in the market and how that market impacts your company. Sometimes market conditions aren't all bad. Some companies are going to step up and be winners. There are some
yes.
products and services that are actually inverse to the market. So that might be something to pay attention to. If you
Mm,
are in a company or industry that moves with the general market, this is a time that I would
yes.
say brush up those skills, make sure that resume is fresh before anything happens, collect those wins and the stories. It's so hard to go out and remarket yourself, and you're like, I can't remember what that campaign
Oh
did.
my
I
gosh.
don't have
Yes.
access to that file to
Right.
quantify those wins. So I
Oh
would
my
say
gosh.
right now, this is a time to be documenting your progress and your wins weekly. Build it before you need it. And we should
Oh
be
my
really
gosh.
paying attention.
That right there is a nugget in itself because more often than not, we either aren't paying attention, right? And get
Mhm.
caught by surprise, or we assume that it either isn't going to happen to us or we have time rather than being in control. Really, what you boil down is like take control of the situation. First,
Yes.
awareness, the market, be
Yes.
aware of the market you're in and what's happening, totally the full awareness, and then take
Yeah.
action, preparation, right? If you stay
Preparation.
ready, then you don't have to get ready.
That part. And honestly, when we even talk about back to the beginning that we are multifaceted, you should be keeping track of these wins weekly, even in your
Yes.
company. We have been conditioned to show up smaller than we actually are, right? So it is really important. Again, if you keep document of your wins, and this is something I actually do as a practice, and when I manage teams, I make everybody document their wins every week. Why? One, you're going to forget things. But
Mm.
two, it makes review time simple. We don't always know how to talk about our fullness and all of our accomplishments. If
Yes,
you
we
read
do.
52 weeks of accomplishment, you are going to write that self evaluation differently, right? So that is just a best
Yes.
practice.
Ooh, I
Again,
love
do
that.
I stay or do I go? If you are staying or going, that is a real best practice to keep track of those
Oh,
accomplishments.
that's just bottom line good practice, irrespective of the situation around you. Excellent practice. And what an
Yeah.
opportunity when it's time to do that self evaluation, you pull out that journal, that notebook, that
Yes.
file, whatever you've kept, and you pull out those wins, those nuggets, and you're able to quantify them. The year, it is hard to reflect back. You get kind of a thin memory, but if you're keeping track each week, you've got data. You've got
Yes.
details that is going to make that self eval that much more. I love that. Whether you stay or go, document the wins. Love that, Jeanette.
Yes.
But let
So
me just
think
throw this at you.
I was also going to say, when you're thinking about what's going on in the world, it's important to think about the money, right? That's the other big piece.
For sure. I
You
was
need
there.
stories
I was
and you
just
need the
going
wins,
there.
but you have to think about the money. If you're not sure if your job is safe, then this is a time to pull back on spending, to think about being
Mm,
conservative, to store up those coins. That is really important because so many decisions, especially when we're in time of change or a time of transition, we can make rash decisions and we're jumping
yes.
at things if we do not have enough money. So that is really part and parcel to whether you're leaving by force or by choice. If you see things start changing, Think about how we can start saving and storing away because we don't know if we will be eligible for severance or unemployment. But at least if we have a little bit of a foundation, those programs on top of it can be icing on the cake. That could relieve pressure, but especially in this day and age, we cannot be solely
No, cannot.
reliant
No.
that our social net is going to be there for us.
No, I'm unsure. Yes, you told me to do the wins. I got that. But what should I be doing on the finance side? Should I even be thinking about that? Or is a severance guaranteed? Nothing is ever guaranteed, especially in this market. We have to be vigilant and really do our due diligence to make sure our foundation is solid in case we either choose to go or we're set or we are let go by not by choice. Very important for us to be cognizant of that because I can't tell you, Jeanette, and I'm sure you've seen it in LinkedIn. I just saw a post recently where people are saying, oh my gosh, I'm about to have my car repossessed. I've been looking for a job. And I
Oh,
have to wonder, I hate that situation they're in, but I'm wondering if they even
yes.
thought to do what you just mentioned. That's why I wanted to have this expert, this young woman on in September, given what's going on. I knew it was going to be a crucial conversation with critical nuggets of tools, methodologies, things to consider. I'm telling you, at the end of this, I'm going to make sure you have all her contact information because you're going to get some stuff and say, I still don't know how to do it. I need you to help me know how to do it. Don't
Yeah.
worry. We're going to have you reach out
We
to
should
Jeanette. Go
be
ahead.
honest, right? To your point about the
Yes.
time of the year, we're going into Q4. There are a lot of companies that make their financial numbers by cutting staff in Q4, right? So
Four.
it's
Yes,
even
ma'am.
more important as we know we're going into the holidays. This is a time when we typically pick up spending. You might be
Yes.
picking up traveling to visit family or friends, right?
Yep.
And this is the time where a lot of people get cut just so companies can say, I made revenue, right? I
Yeah.
made profit in Q4. So this is a particularly vulnerable time
Yeah.
of year. So I think that this is a place to be careful and mindful. So we had talked about what's going on in the market. I think that you need to pay attention what's going on in your company, right? We had
Yes.
talked about, right? When sales is slowing down, that is something to pay attention to. You also need to pay attention to the shifts in the business, right? Are you working on a product line or a service line that is slowing? Maybe the company is growing. Maybe they're doing fine. Maybe it's
Good point.
revenues. But are you working on the old thing that might get phased out versus the new
Mm,
thing that is growing and where they're going to put a lot of money and
wow.
people in
Good point.
resources, right? So you need to be paying attention to the business dynamics, right? Don't be multitasking during those all hands. We need to be paying
Paying,
attention.
yes, ma'am. And that goes back to you mentioning that you were in making sure that your skills were ready. What a time to do that. If you're working on this project that's being phased out, if it's being replaced with new
Mhm.
innovative technology, take advantage of this time now to bridge the skill gap so that you can move
Right.
into that new technology, that innovative approach that the company is taking. That's extremely important. What a wonderful piece that you just brought up, especially we know what's happening with AI, right? We know how
Yes.
AI is coming into just about every industry. I can't think of an industry it's
Ever.
not disrupting. Will it replace humans? Who knows?
You
Impact.
see that video by the
What?
CEO of Salesforce that said he does think it's going to replace
He
engineers, right?
full.
Where he was like, I'm already hiring less and less, and I fully expect in several years that this is replaced by AI. So, again, pay
Oh,
attention to what's happening. You running scared, or are you starting to dip your toe in the water and be
mm,
on the cusp? Are you starting to innovate? How can AI help? Now, I am personally of this standpoint. I don't think that it's going to fully replace us. I think
I
there's
don't.
too many implications, and I think we live in too much of a litigious company. There's got to be somebody to point a finger at and sue. So I don't think it will fully replace us, but I do think that this is an opportunity,
Yes,
especially for brown folks,
yes,
to not
yes,
be running scared and start to
yes.
think about one of the things I always say is where there is chaos, there's opportunity, right?
Oh, I
When
love that.
people are
Yes.
running scared, you have to figure out what is the opportunity. Where can you go where you can start to carve out an area of expertise for yourself? How can you
Yes.
learn something new? What can you bring back? Even if you are not necessarily thinking about technology or on that side of things. All of these technologies have to be regulated, have to have policy, have to have operating
Yes.
procedures. Maybe
Yes.
that becomes a special project or an area. You all want to move so fast and use AI. How can we do that? How can we think about a policy? Let me take on a side project so that you
Look
can
at
start
that.
to upskill and be valuable, right? So think about that. I'll give an example. When I was early in my career, and you mentioned that I worked at PayPal, I worked
Right.
on a product that actually still exists today. It's now called PayPal Credit in the Wallet. We were just launching this and we were rolling it out to customers. Based on the way that it works, you transact without actually using a credit card number. You use your birthday, the last four of your social. This product is meant for mobile. I ended up leaving the company because I went to a mobile technology startup. I can sit around here and wait for you to hire me a boss. I can go get mobile experience and then you can hire me back. I chose to leave to be on the cutting edge of things. They did not hire me back. But the next company I went to went public on the New York Stock Exchange. Right?
Look at that.
Because I decided to be, right? There's the Wayne
Yes.
Gretzky skate to where the puck is going. I said I could sit around and wait and
Yes.
I could be here, but I'm not going to have any more growth and any more skill set. I know that this is the future. And I
Oh
wasn't wrong.
my.
I built a very robust career in mobile technology from there. So my thought and theory were right, even though they never
Wow.
recruited me back. I decided to leave from a combination of market conditions and
Yep.
company conditions. I was on something that was good and it was growing for the moment, but I knew that that wasn't the future. And I, working internally, did not have the opportunity, did not have the tenure, did not have the cachet
Mm.
to get on a different project. So I said, listen, I'm going to choose to leave so that I can upskill myself, so that I can be there when the market is
Love
ready
that.
to set up an expertise in something. So that's another framework to think about. How do you pay attention to your projects in the company to know when it is time to go?
Okay, I love that story that you told and how you made a very strategic move in your career that benefited you long term. What is it about your ability to do that? Because I would say, look, that clearly takes a belief in your skill set. Let's delineate that because let's be honest, not everybody can make that courageous decision and take a step like that, right? And bet on themselves. But they should, because in a lot of times we short side ourselves. We don't step into our full power and our full authentic selves and all the skills. I mean, you said multifaceted in the beginning as we opened
Yeah.
it up. I think a lot of times as brown people, we don't really recognize the greatness, the level of
Mhm.
excellence that we have. When it comes to brown women in particular, we are mostly the higher educated, the more experienced.
Yes.
But still, I can't tell you the number of clients that I work with, Jeanette, that won't stand on that for themselves. So, what would you offer
So
to
let's
them?
talk about it. There is an illusion of safety. And where we are
Mm,
seeing over 300,000 of us are
yes,
being let go now
yes,
is because we have over relied on playing it safe. That
yes.
this corporate job or gig is always going to be here. And it is really an illusion of safety. Being a coach and working with founders, what you don't often know and don't see is that leaders are going through ebbs and flows. They are making critical strategic
Yes.
decisions. They may be close to running out of money just before they got that client, that contract, that fundraise. And you
Yep.
did not really know how tenuous this situation was. And we have wrapped that in safety. But there is
Mm,
a reason why diverse teams outperform other teams by 36%, right? There is a reason why in a
yes.
recession, there are more women and more women of color who take leadership roles because we are uniquely positioned to make a dollar out of 15 cents. And so, if we get
Yes.
rid of the illusion of safety, we should feel comfortable to bet on ourselves because when everybody else's back's against the wall, guess who they're betting on? They're betting on us.
That's exactly right. Because we do know how to make a dollar out of 15 cents. That was so well stated. Look, did I not tell you? I told you it's going to be gems. I'm sure by now you got some paper and pen out. Jeanette Jordan, I knew this was going to be everything. The market conditions, company situations, maybe product lines or particular products phasing out. Is there any other
Yeah.
areas that you think they should be paying
Yes.
attention to?
Okay. So now we got to talk about us. Let's talk about the internal dynamics and what's
Okay.
happening to us. And I'm going to talk about two phases. What is your work environment like? What
Mm,
is your
okay.
team like, right? There's something a coach that I love said, like, are you facing headwinds or tailwinds? What is that
Mm,
environment like? Do I stay or do I go? I worked at a company. I talked about this several times, and in a blog I wrote about burnout. I had so many headwinds.
mm.
And I know that somebody's going to resonate with this story. I was
Oh,
the
yeah.
most senior ranking Black person in the company's history. I was one of the only Black women leaders at several tech companies. I rebranded the organization with 1/10 and 1/20th of the budget and the team that my counterparts had. And even with that, stacked against me. Not only did I do it well, but internally, the treatment, the constant sabotage, the constantly being set up. I would have a meeting with my stakeholders and say, we're about to review this new branding that came out with the agency. Give me feedback. Do you like it? Do I need to make adjustments for the big meeting? And everybody would sit there and tell me, this is great. This is wonderful. And then we would get in a big meeting with the CEO and they said, this is trash, and they would undermine me over and
All the
over again.
time.
So, I'm a Black woman. And so what did I do? I put on my cape, I tied it around my neck,
Of
and I finished
course.
the project,
There
and
we
I
go.
successfully
Hmm.
rebranded the company. But there were signs and red flags from my team that really said I should go. But I waited so
Mm.
long that that turned into what was happening inside of
Of you.
me.
Oh, yes.
Was breaking down. I was waking up in pain every day. I was gaining unexplainable weight. I was burning out so much to the point that I would just lose my thought mid thought, didn't know what I was doing. And it was really scary. And so, coming back to this financial discussion about how do you get prepared
Yeah.
if you are going to leave, and potentially leaving could be because of your workplace conditions or because of your physical, mental, or emotional
Yeah.
health conditions. My
Yeah.
financial advisor had to have a tough conversation with me. And she said, what is your emergency savings for? And I said, I don't know. My car breaking down, if my water heater breaks. And she's like, for you, you're a knowledge worker. You got to protect your mind. You got to protect your health.
Mm.
You are not okay. And so it's very,
Wow.
very important that you actually use your savings on you. This is an emergency, and you don't
Mm.
want to push it to the point where you cannot come back from it.
What a financial advisor. Because I'm telling you, that was the message that you needed to hear that we rarely
Mhm.
hear from. We don't, a lot of times we don't surround ourselves with those types of persons in our
Mhm.
community to give us that realness, that courageous conversation. But what I mean, life changing for you, I'm sure
Yes,
it was. And we would, none of us would think of, I mean, when you mentioned what your emergency savings is for, I know when you said it in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, oh, it's not, wouldn't have been on the list
never.
either. Right. It's not on the,
Me not being on the
yes.
list for us in general
It's a
is
bigger
a
problem. You're right, which is a problem. But what a valuable lesson that you're sharing with me and my community. We don't want people to repeat. I can resonate with your experience. I'll just tell you that I could resonate with that experience as well. It's unfortunate because I agree with you. There are probably several others listening to us right now that can say,
yes.
okay, yeah, no, I've been there. I've been sabotaged. I've had people behind my back. I'm sure there's quite a number, and it's extremely
But you know
unfortunate.
what, Linda? Such a funny story. I ended up exiting, and I had a friend who was a freelance writer who wrote an article that got published in Essence about me exiting. When I posted that article, I had to laugh so hard. I said, I have been working since I was 14 years old, and I have been a workaholic. And the first time I get published in a tier one publication is for leaving work. But that's how deeply it resonated
Yes.
with people.
Yeah. It's sad to say that there's going to
Mhm.
be hundreds, if not thousands of people who lived or were living exactly what you
Mhm.
experienced that was shared in
Yeah.
that article. And they're living it today. And they're not even thinking that their emergency savings, which could be 5, 6 figures long, could be something they could tap in to save themselves, which is why this
Yeah.
conversation is so crucial. I'm so deeply grateful that you're sharing your personal stories and how you got on the other side of it. These are things I clearly know. If I'm looking back at my career
Mhm.
and what how that same things happened to me, I didn't even think of it. I put my cape on and I
Mhm.
did the work. I think there was only one time I looked for a job. Other times I was recruited passively. So I sat there and endured till
Mhm.
somebody, tapped and knocked on the door, hit me up in LinkedIn, which I should have never done. I only left
Yeah.
once
You know
once.
what? We should talk about how the story played out. I say this because I want it to be an inspiration. I did
Yes.
do that. I had the savings. I knew I wanted to finish my project and I made a plan. And then what I did is I took some PTO because I didn't take any PTO leading up
Of
to this
course
moment.
not.
So I took
Of
some
course.
time off
Mm-hmm.
to strategize my exit. I came back to the company and I negotiated a severance, right? I was a senior leader. And so I said, what's the worst that I have to lose? I already have my savings and I know how long I can sit down for. So there's nothing to lose. I negotiated a severance. And not only did I get a severance and did I get medical, I also was able to get a prorated bonus on top of that. And that allowed me to take a break and really rest and recover on a deeper level
Oh,
than I even thought was possible. But
yeah.
several months later, I did get recruited and I came back to a new position at two titles higher than I was. Sometimes we are so afraid to leave and we are so afraid to bet on ourselves. I'm not saying be out here and be reckless
No,
and quit your job.
clearly
I
not.
think a
Clearly not.
solid financial plan and a strategy is important, but we do need to think about when it is time to
Yes.
go and when it is time for us to start strategically planning for that
Yes.
exit.
Yes, Jeanette, absolutely. I'm glad that you told the rest of that story. It was a wonderful ending. Back to your comment that you made that we look at things and create this safe space that's really not safe. And had just think that you still thought that was safe. You wouldn't have had that opportunity to take time off at a deeper level, reflect, strategize, and move into a position that was 2 levels higher. That wouldn't have happened. I'm so glad you told the end of that story. And I know it's going to give somebody the courage
Mhm.
to choose themselves and to give this
Yeah.
opportunity to for the same similar story to happen. And of course, I will repeat what she just said. We're not being reckless here. We're not telling people to just willy-nilly quit your job. Everything has to be planned and strategized. The plan has to be developed and then executed. Let's make
But
it.
also know when it's time to stop enduring. When I
There
left
we go.
that company, because I was the most senior ranking Black person, I met with the ERG and I said I could stay. But I know that I'm a role model and I'm choosing to leave. And part of the reason why I'm choosing to leave is to send a message. When
Mm.
is enough enough? When is it time to not endure just because we can, but to
Yes.
actually make a choice, right? Who are you sending a message to? What are you trying to prove by enduring? And
Oh my
wearing yourself
gosh.
down to nothing. Who is this for? Is this truly for you, your family, the people you provide for? Are you trying to prove something to someone that doesn't have relevance and agency in your life?
That is exactly what we do 9 times out
Mhm.
of 10. Proving it to people that have no agency in our life, zero. And we think somehow that is the win, that is the right direction, that is the choice. And
Yes.
I would also say though, Jenna, in some cases that is all we know because that's all that's been
Yes.
demonstrated for us. Okay. I
Hmm.
know in me being a baby boomer, I'm 63. That's all that was demonstrated for me that you work hard and endure.
Yes.
And I had to learn that that's not the way to go. And I learned it in my late 30s and 40s, and I'm glad I did. Bless
Hmm.
you, mom, for what you own. That's all you knew to teach me. She was born in the Depression era.
The choices you had then, right? They fought so hard, so we have different choice and
Exactly. So
agency. So let's
there we are.
exercise it
So
and
exercise
think about.
what we want to model for the next generations and those to come. I do that for my daughter who's 20. That was been my mission. And younger people that I come in contact with, speak to, present, whatever. Want to definitely demonstrate that. Now you said you were going to talk about a couple phases. So one was Looking at your personal situation and whether or not you were burnt out. What was the other one you wanted to talk about
Yeah,
personally?
no, I said looking at the team, right? How is the team
Ah, that's
treating
right.
you? And
Yes,
then when we
that's
talk
right.
about burnout, sometimes we get into comparison. Some other people are able to navigate this environment and they're doing fine, and somehow we're gaslighting ourselves. Something that I talk to a lot of my clients about is thinking about a toxic work situation being like an allergy. You are allergic to this situation and it impacts you really deeply. That could just be your reaction.
Your,
Nobody else in the room
mm,
has to be allergic to this to not make it toxic for you. So I
that,
want us to demystify when we are thinking about our physical, mental, and emotional health, thinking
yes,
that there is one bar, one arbiter of whether this
right.
workplace is toxic. If it's toxic for you, it is.
It's
Just like you can have a peanut allergy and nobody else in the room can be impacted by
home.
peanuts.
Oh,
Listen, really tune in and listen to yourself.
you listen to your body. Don't ignore the signs. I love
Mhm.
that analogy. Jeanette, this was everything I knew it was going to be. I knew it was absolutely going to be everything. And I'm so honored that you spent time with me and my Being Violent Work Live audience. Before we close, I want to give you an opportunity if you have some closing statements, some things you want to make sure the audience doesn't forget to take with them as they're making this decision, leave or stay, or if they're
Yes.
put in the position to leave and it wasn't their choice. Let's close, make sure I want people to know how they can get in touch with you if they need to get some more of the how and maybe get some support along the way. How do they reach out? I will tell you, first of all, LinkedIn, of course, we all know we can connect on LinkedIn,
Yes.
but please, if you could wrap up too with giving them how to connect with you.
Yeah. So listen, I think that it's really important to get clear and know your why, right? If you're staying or if you're going, really think about your goals. Really think about what you're optimizing for in the moment. And what do I mean? It is a down economy. And for some
Hmm.
people, business might be going well and opportunity might be flowing. And so you might be saying yes to certain things or staying in certain situations because you know the opportunity is flowing right now and it might not
Right.
be in the future. If you are deciding to stay, I stayed and endured for a while because I
Hmm.
was finishing up a global rebrand. I wanted to have closure to a project, put my stamp and my
Right.
fingerprint on something, and I wasn't going to leave it undone, right? But
Right.
I was very clear on my why. And I stayed and I endured temporarily because I knew how it was going to serve me. So as you
Hmm.
think about do you stay or do you go, I really want you to think about you, your family, who you care about, who you support. That being the priority and the focus and getting in touch with your why, not just proving it to other people. One of my favorite quotes by Stephen Curry, I have more to accomplish. I have nothing else to prove. As some of the most
Oh,
educated people on this planet, I really want everybody to be stepping in this season with there is nothing wrong with being ambitious and accomplishing, right? You have more to accomplish. You do not have to prove anything else.
oh,
All of them degrees and certifications and prefixes, suffixes behind your name are enough. Right. And so I
yes.
really want you to think about your why. How is this serving you, feeding you in the present, in the midterm, and
Wow.
in the future? And really start to optimize for that. And everybody may not understand it, and that's just okay.
And it's
As
okay.
long as you know your why and you're making moves in alignment with those, then I really think that you are going to be okay.
Okay, Miss Jeanette Jordan. It was such an honor, Jeanette, to have you as my guest. I am blessed and honored. How could people connect with you directly if they need more support in the process of
I
making these
love
decisions?
this. Please do not hesitate to reach out to me. I am an executive coach, so I help people navigate pivots and transitions all day, every day, and I absolutely love it. Whether you're transitioning careers or industries or making a pivot, a lot of my clients have been in corporate for a while and now they are launching and starting their own business and becoming
Yes.
founders and small business owners. So, this is the thing I absolutely love to do. You can find me on all of the platforms, Jeanette C. Jordan. whether that's LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, wherever I exist. All of my handles are Jeanette C. Jordan. My email is info@JeanetteCJordan.com. My website is JeanetteCJordan.com. Don't hesitate to reach out to me, DM me. I'm always happy to see what I can do to support people as they grow, scale, pivot their careers in their businesses.
Don't hesitate. Don't look. If you think of it, don't think. I mean, you
This
actually
is the
should be
sign.
DMing her. Thank you. Boom, right there. It's a sign. You should be DMing her right now while you're listening to this. Is what you should be doing. Jeanette, thank you so much. It was such an honor and a pleasure. When I met you earlier in the year and we scheduled this, I just knew it was going to be everything, and it has exceeded my expectations. Thank
I
you again.
know. And
Such an
such
honor.
divine
Such an honor.
timing. We had no idea
Yes,
what the world would
right.
be like when we scheduled this, but
None.
divine timing to have this
We had none.
conversation. I don't want people to forget that everything happens for a reason. Let's let this be a sign to start ushering in what is new, what is possible, what is in front of you. I want to thank you, Linda, for having me and creating a platform for us to curate community and to have these really important family conversations because we don't always do that. We got to
No,
share the tips and the wisdom and we
we
got to pass it
do.
down.
We do. And Jeanette, thank you. That was so kind of you to say.
Always a
Thank you for honoring me.
pleasure.
Such a